Good day, math leaders of Temecula Valley Unified. Welcome back to the Tesseract Project, our long-term plan for professional development of math leaders. That's us and the teachers that we serve. This discussion is on the PLC pre-unit, the meeting protocols. And so we're looking at, again, our purpose. The purpose of the Tesseract Project is to radically improve the math education in our schools. We're making moves to do that through focused, customized professional development of our leadership. And once again, we're going to be looking at the systems. We talked about this last time, that we have this point of this lever of leverage, and to move the kids, the young boy you see with the glasses, but to move him, we have to move the teachers that teach him. In order to do that, we must improve our own leadership. So we get that leverage here by improving our leadership. That's how we move them here. And that focal point is the systems that we have in place. And the portion of the system that we're focusing on today is the pre-unit protocols. So we're going back to our same symbolism as last time. If you remember, the Tesseract represented for us structure. So we looked at this structure here, this scaffold, and how all these people were climbing on it with confidence. And the people that were building it were confident that this would support the teachers. We want to put structures in place that we are confident will support the learning of the students and the professional development of our teachers. And if we're not confident that the current structures are doing that, then we want to change those structures. I'm going to focus on a particular point that we made last time. We talked about structures influencing behavior and behavior creating the structures. So that's where I'm going to look at today is this idea of the way that the molecules behave here. It determines the structure of the molecule. I should say the way the atoms behave with each other dictates the structure of the molecule. This is very similar to what Rick DeFore said, that oftentimes, as I believed, that you need to change the beliefs of teachers in order to change their behavior. And his point was, if you change their behavior over time, their beliefs will change. So we're going to go at it from both sides, because I also follow Rick DeFore's advice about avoiding the tyranny of or and going with the genius of and. So we want both systems and behaviors, but we're going to be focusing here on the structures, particularly the structure of the pre-unit. In other words, what are teachers doing at the beginning of each unit in their collaborative meetings, whether that's late start, early release, the full release days. What are they doing at the beginning of a particular unit of math study? So our objective today is very similarly to the last lesson where we did the PLC structures. We're going to be looking at the portion of those PLC notes and looking at that front end of what goes on in the pre-unit, and we're going to fill out this row of our plan. So I'm going to share with you, kind of frame the dialogue. That's my role. Your role is to do the heavy lifting and to put together that plan. And eventually we will meet sometime in the summer and bring our ideas together and then start laying out the details of how that plan will be implemented at each of the sites. All of this is done with a site focused, because what is needed at a high school versus a middle school versus an elementary school is quite different. And everybody's needs and staff are different, so the solutions need to be different. I'm just framing the dialogue on what we're going to look at. And so today we're going to look at this definition of the PLC that Dr. Cruz gave us last time, and I'm focusing on the front end. Let's look at the ongoing progress in which educators work collaboratively in recurring cycles of collective inquiry. So we're going to look at on the ongoing process of educators working collaboratively in these cycles of collective inquiry. We're focusing on the why, getting the teachers to be looking at the front end of the unit, the why they're going to be doing the things that we're going to ask them to do throughout the unit. So that's where our focus is today. It's really simple. We have these pre-unit protocols. These are some of my ideas that I'm thinking about that I'm going to have you play with. You are utterly free and obliged to, if you feel that one of these don't fit yours, to throw it out. And you'll notice number 8 is what else. Anything else you feel that I have not thought about, because I will guarantee you I'm not going to be thinking about everything. Or these might work at one of the sites that that are involved in our project, but not the other. So I'm just giving you this to think about. You're going to play with these and kind of lay out this plan, but it's your plan. So you get to devise it however you wish. But let me point out some things to you that I'm seeing are needed. I want you to imagine that teachers are at the beginning of a unit of study. So maybe it's a unit 3 functions. Actually, unit 3 would be systems of linear equations in algebra 1. And so what would they, at a high school level, what would they be doing? So the first thing we want them to do is looking at the standards alignment. So we would have them go to our UPO documents and look at the standards for that particular unit. We learned from the training of the elementary school refinement teams that the teachers are still very weak in their understanding of what standards align with their grade level. They're very clear on what sections of topics, what topics and sections are in their textbooks for their grade level, but not necessarily the standards. So we really want them to look there. Content knowledge learning. So these meetings are there for them to gain that knowledge before the unit starts. And again, that's going to be part of, if that's going to be part of our plan, then we're going to have to sit down together and figure out how we're going to provide that. And then myself as the TOSA can come in and support. Tasks. So we're going to look at what tasks we want teachers doing throughout the unit. Eventually, at first, we just want 1 per unit. Eventually go to 2 per unit. And then 3 is the ultimate goal. I guarantee you when we get to 3 per unit. And when I say ultimate goal, that's typically the standard that I've seen across high-performing districts is they have a task that teachers do at the beginning of a unit, middle of a unit, and at the end of a unit. So an introductory task, a formative task, and a summative task. And then doing this, the Julie Dixon 5 shifts for the elementary schools. What about formative assessments? How are we going to figure out along the way how the kids are doing? Intervention on the prerequisite skills. We're going to dive deeper into this later, but we want our interventions focused on the prerequisite skills the students need to be successful in the current unit, not necessarily intervention on the current unit of study. So we don't want to get halfway through Unit 3, find out which kids are not learning for Unit 3, and then put them in an intervention about Unit 3 just in time for the test. What we want to do is put them in intervention for the prerequisite skills that are required to be successful here in Unit 3, and then put them in there quickly so that we can get things going throughout the unit on the intervention. Grading of the CIA needs to be done at the front end. And by the way, as you can already tell, this is way more than can be done in one meeting. So that's off the table there. We're not trying to get this done in an hour or 45 minutes. So we have to decide kind of how we're going to map that out. That'll be part of our plan. But the grading of the CIA needs to be done up front or during those release days. The teachers need to be looking at that, knowing what they're teaching towards on that test, and then talking about how they grade it, having the conversation about what they're looking for, what's important to them, what they value on that exam, and what, more importantly, what they don't value on the exam. And then the dual targets, getting them to talk about putting up objectives that include both a content piece and a math practice piece. And what we're looking at is on the units, getting anywhere from focus on 2 to 4 of the 8 mathematical practices for a particular unit. So having the teachers looking at it, deciding which of these, they're in the elementary UPOs now. We're hoping to get them in the secondary UPOs soon, so there'll be some, at least a frame of reference for them to look at and talk about. And then obviously whatever else you think is needed for your PLCs at the beginning of a unit to make them successful for the entire unit. So that's what we're hoping to do right here, is start like we did last time. At the pre-unit, we're going to look at the end, the ultimate goal. So we see signature strategies. I gave this example. It was that all teachers were teaching number sense and critical thinking, not just content. So then we worked our way backwards with some things, or you will, with the signature strategies. I did here as an example, worked my way backwards of over the 6 years, how we're going to roll these things out. We're not going to drop it in next year and get all of these things done. So we're hoping that 6 years from now, all of our teachers are looking really good on teaching number sense and critical thinking, as well as content. So what's yours going to be for the pre-unit? How would a meeting or a series of meetings look with your team at the beginning of the unit? And then those things that I just suggested as far as protocols, where, in what sequence and in what kind of timing over the course of the next 6 years would you lay them out? You get to play again at student.desmos.com. This time there's a different code. Make sure you do the previous activity which is also student.desmos.com with a different code. And that'll give you the line at the top. Make sure you've done, we're going to go down this list. So make sure you've done the PLC structures, the overall structures, then the pre-unit. Then we're going to go down and keep knocking it down all the way through this list. Once you're done playing with that and you've kind of toyed around, then you're going to go in and do this in your Google Sheet. Now, the last lesson asked that you make a copy of it for your own school site. So make sure you've done that already. You're just going to go back to that file. This portion will probably be done. I would suggest if you have a team that's working on this Tesseract with us, that you pull them in and have a brief conversation about where you think this goes. But ultimately, the leader, whether it is the assistant principal overseeing math or the principal of the school, is going to put this in the 6-year plan and type that in. So if there's 3 of you on the team for a site, you're not doing 3 different plans. You're entering one line for one plan. You may all decide to go in and do this and bring your answer to what you think the plan should be, but each school has one plan. So that's what you're looking at doing. That's your homework. So our objective is to do that pre-unit. I've shared with you what needs to be done on that. Go and do that. So go to Google Classroom. This will all be listed there. Sign in, do the new student Desmos activity, and then record your timeline for the PLC pre-unit in your 6-year plan. That's your assignment, and I will look forward to seeing you and what you produce, because now we're moving forward and changing that world one math lesson at a time.